Hello and welcome to another episode of the Leadership in Construction podcast. I'm your host, Michael, and today I'm joined by Michaela Wain, who is an entrepreneur in the construction industry. And today we're going to talk about women in construction. So, Michaela, welcome to the show.
Yes, thank you very much, Michael. My favourite topic, women in construction.
Absolutely. And I'm so excited about this podcast. We've been talking about getting together and doing this podcast for some time now. So it's great to finally have you on the show. To get us started, Michaela, can I ask you just to give us a bit of background behind yourself? How did you get into the construction industry, and what led you to where you are today? You know, you're an entrepreneur, so you've got huge amounts of businesses around the construction industry, and you're a massive advocate for women in construction. So could you just give us a bit of background about how all that's managed to form?
Yeah, so I took a year out from university when I was 19. I was studying religion and special needs, so not construction. And basically, when I did that, I was living with my dad, and I was a typical student, you know, like just lodding about the house and just having a free ride and making him pay for me to go on nights out. And he said, "You either get a job or I'm going to kick you out." So I thought, "Oh, I best do something." And I got offered two jobs. One of them was working in Greg's pasty shop, and I'm not sure if you've seen the hairnets, but that is not what a 19-year-old needs to be wearing in the middle of Bolton Town Centre. And the other one was selling advertising in a construction magazine. Now, all my family's in construction. My dad's an engineer, my stepdad's a joiner, my mum's an estate agent, my brother's a joiners. I've worked on construction sites, I've worked in domestic properties, and I'd always been helping my stepdad and my mum when they was younger renovate houses. So I've always had an interest in it. So I thought, well, I'll go for this, obviously, because I'm not going to work at Greg's. And I just seemed to have a knack for it. I was quite good at selling advertising. I worked there for a short while, moved on to another business. And the business that I moved to was a startup run by two young lads, really, at the time. I imagine they must have been in their early 20s at the time. And when I started there, they was doing maybe $6,000 a month. I was there for 5 years or so. And by the end of it, they was doing $100,000-ish a month, and that was due to what I brought to that company. So I taught them different ways of selling, helped them recruit people, and taught them about upselling, retaining customers, all different variations of things. A sales manager position became available, and unfortunately for me, they said you can't apply because they wanted an older man, and at 24 I could not be older or male, unfortunately. So I don't think, I'll give them the juice, I don't think in their mind they knew that was discrimination. I think if they genuinely thought this is what a sales manager looks like. And, you know, I was perhaps a bit scatty, but I proved to them over all these years that I'm more than capable of running the business for them. They could have walked away from it. I had suggested starting an office in Manchester, like all kinds of things. And I was just hitting a glass ceiling. So at the time I was pregnant, so I was kind of stuck there because, you know, I needed maternity pay and whatnot. And they employed an older man to be the sales manager and asked me to train him. And I was like, this is the final blow for me. So I had my son, and when he was about 4 months old, I was just sat there one dinner time, really pissed off. Can I swear on this?
Of course you can.
I was just really pissed off, and I just thought, you know what? I am going. I've absolutely had enough. My brother worked there, and I just said, I'm leaving. Lee John, are you coming? He's 5 years older than me, but I just told him, I was like, are you coming? He was like, what do you mean I'm coming? I was like, Lee John, I'm leaving. I'm going to start my own business. Are you coming or not? And he was just like, oh, well, yeah, if you're going, I'm going. So we just walked out. The next day started trading. And off the back of that, then we grew the business, we grew it fast, we did well immediately. And I had lots of connections in construction who was willing to support us, thankfully, through that startup process, knew what we was capable of. And then I was offered other opportunities. Somebody wanted me to do the marketing for them in exchange for being a joint owner of a utility connection company. So I did that, and then that revealed opportunities that we ended up getting into facilities management and a construction company. So it's all led off the back of that, and I've got more and more involved in the construction sites over the years and not just kind of running a business. So we do a bit of it all now. And with regards to the women in construction piece, I never actually knew it was a big issue. I'm kind of desensitized to some of the things that have happened to me over the years because, I just crack on. But after appearing on The Apprentice, I had in excess of 10,000 messages, inboxes, emails, phone calls, a variation of things from other women, some men as well, asking how I dealt with such a thing, how can they get promoted, how did they get into the industry, thank you for representing women in construction, all kinds of things. But that's when I really realised, this is a thing and it's a problem. And that's when I really ramped up my research into what's going on, how people feel, how people are treated, and how I could use the platform that I'd been given, thankfully, to try and help people. And here we are today.
Fantastic story. And it's quite interesting what you're saying, really, because you're sort of saying you sort of been desensitized to it. And it wasn't until people started getting in contact with you that it really highlighted to you that how much of an issue that this is about the misrepresentation or the lack of representation for women in construction. And I think I was sort of similar until I started this podcast and started talking to more and more people and getting different perspectives. I sort of found and discovered that actually there's a lot of people in areas that are completely not represented at all. So that's really interesting, really, what you're saying. So in terms of the very particular topic around women in construction then, so what are the sort of initiatives and things that you're doing and helping out to sort of help that representation for women in construction?
Yeah, so initially, and I mean anybody can do this, initially it was just speaking to people. I was just inquisitive because, as I say, I was desensitized and I was brought up very much just around men. I've got 4 brothers. I'm really close to my stepdad. I'm incredibly close to my dad. So I used to play on the lads football team. I've just always been around men and I've heard all this banter and I'm not easily offended whatsoever. And I've been treated really, really well by men and I've been treated shit. And when it's been bad, I put it down to that individual being an idiot and not all men are like this, which is, I guess, helped me to be successful in construction because I can take things with a pinch of salt. But I just started having more conversations with women who wasn't like me, who didn't have that upbringing, who might be from a family of girls, who haven't really been part of this world before. And it can be shocking, and it never would have to me, but I do understand it. Some things what I said and the way that people are treated, you're like, oh my God, in any other industry, this would be like absolutely not allowed. And, I can have a laugh with the best of them, but there are times when I'm like, oh my God, this is too bad. So I think just opening my mind to really trying to understand other women's perspective and empathise with them. And in addition, this isn't just women. I support women in construction, but this, I believe, has a huge impact on mental health in construction and suicides in construction and divorce rates. We're the worst industry in the UK for it. So we really need to, I think by just speaking to people more and understanding people's feelings, just because you're in construction does not mean that you're a robot and you have no feelings. So that was my initial step. Really trying to understand where other people was coming from and if there was a way that I could position myself to help these people, if what they were saying I believed in as well, because, if somebody's really extreme with their opinion, that's not me, so I'm not going to fight that cause. But when there's so many people saying very similar things, I'm like, something's got to be done. So it started off with conversations, then it started off with public speaking, going to events. Again, Anybody can do this kind of thing, opening your mind to the conversation. And again, just really understanding other people's perspective is so important in business, in life, in everything, to really try and understand them. You will have an immediate reaction and an immediate opinion to what somebody is saying, but try and understand why they're saying it. Before you just go in with, that is wrong, try and understand, all right, so why do you feel like this? Or what has been your experience that's led you to react in this manner, blah, blah, blah. So that would be my first thing that anybody can do. Beyond that, then, I was having conversations with more high-profile people and businesses and seeing what I could really do. So I have Design and Build UK. It's a really large construction magazine. We have almost 300,000 readers of this every single month. And so I thought, right, I'm going to start profiling women. I don't want to be negative about it. I want to do something positive. And so I want to give women a platform and create role models so that other women in construction and perhaps not in construction can see these and be like, I want to be like them. That sounds like loads of fun. So we've been doing spotlights on women and awards in our magazine for the last 3 or 4 years, there or thereabouts. And that's gained lots of traction and lots of interest. We are now, I'm pleased to say, Michael, doing the first ever industry first Women in Construction Awards, which is going to be in September 2022. And all proceeds of this is going to the Maggie Oliver Foundation. If you don't know her, you've got to check her out. She was the police officer who whistle blew and brought down the Rochdale grooming scandal, or brought it to light. There was a documentary / drama done about it called 3 Girls. And she is just amazing, a powerhouse, and she needs funding. So we're using the industry's money from sponsorship of these awards and giving it all to Maggie Oliver. What I've also been working on is a specific qualification with City and Guilds that is just for women in construction. And the reason it's just for women in construction is men can do it, whatever, that's fine. But if you market something as women in construction, it's going to speak to women. And for women entering into the industry, because if it's just a construction course, society's perception of the industry is it's just for men. So if we say this is for women in construction, we're going to attract more women. So we built this course out. Maggie Oliver is going to use the money that we give to her to help the girls who she supports and women who have suffered from sexual abuse and domestic violence, to help them. The course is free, but to help them if they need childcare, laptops, bus fare, whatever it is, to be able to access this course. So we're trying to make it a round circle event and introduce more women into the industry, because the feedback I get from tier 1, tier 2 and SME contractors is there's just not enough women. So I'm trying to solve that problem by introducing more. So those are the 2 main things that's taking place this year. I'm also building out an ED&I accreditation for the industry, because there isn't one, which is just bizarre, with City and Guilds as well. So it's going to be City and Guilds certified, and we're going to try and get large companies and SMEs to sign up to this, and then approach government to weight the tender process, public procurement contracts, if you have this accreditation, and to weight it more than the typical 2% that it is now, to weight it to up to 25% of the contract, which means tier 1 will jump on board, therefore SMEs have to jump on board, and that should filter down through the industry. And we've tried the carrotless stick, doesn't work. So I'm unfortunately going for the stick, and I know that's going to annoy some people, but it is what it is.
That's fantastic, and that's amazing things that you're doing. And so, I mean, that's brilliant in that we're trying to attract and bring more women into construction. What challenges do you sort of see, particularly for leaders, when women get into the construction industry and potentially faced with the same sort of old style views and stigma attached around the day-to-days working for women in construction?
Yeah, do you know what? Most of the people, and I don't know if it's because it's me speaking to them, so I'm obviously going to have a very good debate if they don't agree that women should be included in the business, but most people are open-minded to it. The biggest issue I have is people saying women don't want to be in construction, or the retention of women when they finally get in, saying, sorry, there's a police car going past, can you hear that?
That's fine.
I just wait a moment. Yeah, or the retention of women in construction. And they put this down to it being the woman's fault, when really it isn't. It's the inclusivity of the company. So, people are spending thousands, tens of thousands, and even hundreds of thousands of pounds recruiting, training, attracting men and women. And then women come and they end up leaving and using all of those transferable skills and going into a different industry. And that's because it's not been built, the environment hasn't been built right that they're going into. A lot of times, it's not all the time, but a lot of the times. And around maternity and being a parent as well, the lack of flexibility and it always being, well, men can do this, and fabulous, and surely, men may be more appealing because of that, because they'll drop the family to go onto site because they're the breadwinner. But women are now breadwinners as well, and unfortunately, there's a lot of single mothers out there who are breadwinners and have to look after the family. So there needs to be more flexibility, because this skills gap shortage is going nowhere. And unless we start being more flexible and more inclusive, you're ignoring 51% of the population, and it's never going to get better. So we have to adapt. We've seen that during the pandemic. When people can work from home, women and men can work from home. If your child is sick, this shouldn't be a massive issue if you can still work from home. I get it, if you're a plumber, you can't work from home. But, there needs to be support around this, and there needs to be understanding if the industry is ever going to change for its own sake, and not just to, let's help women out. You need it. Like, there are no plumbers, there's no electricians, wages are skyrocketing, everybody's going self-employed, the great resignation. This is happening, it's a thing. And you either get ahead of this now, or things are going to get bad for business.
Yeah.
So I think building in inclusivity and looking at flexibility would be the key solutions to this. And perhaps when the pushback's coming back, there's not a real excuse anymore.
No, quite. And so do you think then the pandemic in a way has really sort of helped this mission?
Yeah, absolutely. Because, it's proved that people can do this, that they can work from home, that, we have flexible working. My utility connection company does a 4-day week, and we've done it for the last, we're approaching 3 years, I think, with that day. We trialled it for 3 months. The figures didn't go down of what we were doing. The workload, it was all still fine. So then we increased it to 12 months, and now here we are almost 3 years in. And the pandemic stalled our growth, but we're back on track again, and we're growing as a 4-day week again, doing things like this for single parents, not just women. For some dads are single as well, and so trying to bring in these kind of initiatives as well. There's lots of chatter about it now. I think are really helpful for people who have families, because we're just in an era now where it's not all work. And there's lots of options out there, and not as many people to fill these roles. So unfortunately for business owners, then it's an employees market.
Absolutely, quite. And I think one of the things that were highlighted sort of during the pandemic, so for myself, I, started working from home, and working from home, you have the odd child come and interrupt your odd meeting and things like that. There was an element of instant understanding that we, to get through this sort of pandemic, we're going to have to be more accommodating and understanding of people. And in a way, because it was happening to men and women, it all of a sudden got the attention and the empathy and understanding that it needed. Do you think that's a fair point?
Absolutely. I think people think that you have this work persona is your persona. That just isn't it. When you meet somebody, they might be very good at sales, they might have a very good service or product to provide, but they also have a family at home. And ultimately, when it comes down to it, the family's more important. Well, if you're a good human, your family's more important than that product and service, what you are selling. And I think it's allowed, especially in this industry where, the open chat isn't as perhaps done as much as in other industries. It's really allowed people to have an insight into that person's life as well, beyond the business, and be like, oh God, he's actually got 3 kids. And if I'm working with somebody and I really like them, and I'm like, that business, is struggling, can I help them? Can I give them more business? I know he's got 3 kids, the pressure's on. That would make me more drawn towards that person, more drawn towards that business. If there's something beyond this business that also that I can also connect with. It's important for me to know that person and what's going on there. And if I feel a deeper connection, then I'm more likely to do business and to help them in business. And it's been nice to see just the construction industry talking about this, men talking about the kids, men saying, I'm going to go and pick my kids up from school. The more that men are doing that side of things as well, the more they understand what women have been doing forever, but the more it takes pressure off women as well. You know, so if I'm going for an interview, I'm also, which people don't like, but I'm also for equal maternity and paternity leave. I don't think, you know, you should get the full 9 months, but for a good whack of time. And I think that will help women, although super feminists are perhaps against this. I think it will help. If I'm going to interview somebody in their 20s, they don't have any children yet, then I'm going to think, oh, she's probably going to have kids at some point. There's going to be maternity leave. Can we fill in this role? It wouldn't stop me from employing them. But that's going to be in my mind. I'm going to have to be conscious of what's this future going to look like. Now, if there's a bloke and they're getting exactly the same maternity paternity thing, then no matter what, I'm just like, oh, it's going to happen either way. So it's only going to help women when it comes to the jobs and the future prospects. So I think if we can get this balance right on that side as well, then it'll help women's balance when it comes to business. Yeah,
that's really interesting. I want to talk to you a little bit more about the maternity paternity side of things, if that's okay. So as people may know, I'm a father of 4, and pre-pandemic, I was never around. I was always off at client sites, work sites, things like that. And I barely saw my kids. I became a weekend dad. Fast forward into the pandemic, and now I work at home permanently. My kids see me all the time, and I do a lot of drop-offs, a lot of pickups. When I finish work, I'm instantly there with the kids and able to do sort of the more fun father parent things with kids, which is absolutely fantastic. So I think, you know, that's sort of my background, you know, and that pandemic has done a lot of good things for me and my sort of family, being able to work from home, and the understanding that my organization has for that is improved. And I think that's a generalization, but I think that has happened across the board. But what's really interesting around the sort of maternity and paternity thing, so I've had that scenario in the UK where I can share maternity leave with my wife, and as a couple we've decided not to do that, and so I've only ever taken about 6 weeks off in total across my 4 kids, and I've always sort of gone back to work, and my careers continue to progress as it would do if I didn't have any kids. So on your understanding and in the split between maternity and paternity, what was your vision for that, and what would that look like?
I mean, obviously it is different for women in that our bodies go through it. So I have 2 children. One of them was a natural birth. I recovered very easily. I went back into work after, I think, a week with my first son. My second son, I had a C-section. I was running my own business, so I had to get straight back into work, and I did go back in after 2 weeks. That was stupid because I ended up really damaging my body a lot, and I ended up quite poorly from it. So women do need a period of time to recover from this. We have to take into consideration the hormones. I didn't feel like a normal human being again, I'm going to say, till well after he was 12 months old. So we have to have that understanding. And I do think, but if a woman is prepared for that, if she is saying, right, okay, I'm going to split this, I think you get, is it 9 months fully paid? So obviously you can tell I'm clueless because I never took it. But I think you get 9 months fully paid. So then you can go, okay, so 4.5 of these months I want to give to my husband. That is enough time for you to get physically better. Then you're building your family. It's the connection then that the dad has with the child. It's the understanding and the relationship that's forming between the two of them. I'm sure they say a child doesn't actually bond until they're about 6 months old. So obviously you have your preliminary bonding, shall we say, in those times, that they'll start recognising voice and things, but the bond doesn't actually start until they're 6 months old. I think it's really important for that time for the mum and dad to get to know that child on that deep level, and then when the dad goes back to work, he's going to be missing that child as well. I want to rush home and see the baby. Just helping women out. Society's perceptions still to this day is, you know, women can go out and work, perfect, we encourage women to work, but it's still, if your children are reprobates, if you do a bad job as a parent, it is the mother who gets it. It's the mother who gets the looks. It's the mother who's whatever.
It's true.
Shunned in society. If a dad does a bad job at work, if his business fails, if he gets fired, if he's going from job to job and he's not bringing the money in, it's him. That is his fault. It's not the woman. It's nothing to do with her. That needs changing. If a child is naughty, it's both of the parents. If you are doing a bad job, it's both of the parents. If you are not bringing money into your house, if a business fails, it's on both of you. You're both capable of working. We need to get rid of these roles altogether, because I think it's just really hindering women's opportunities to success their careers, and also men's opportunities to spend time with the children. You know, I'm not for this, like, no matter what, a child just goes to the mother. I'm not for that. You know, this should be debated. You should look at co-parenting. You should have equal rights. It's not nice, but you should have equal rights to your child. It's both your child. So I am for equality across the board. And I think if we can get it right for the men when it comes to families, that will have a positive reflection for women when it comes to business.
Yeah, I absolutely think that's fantastic, and I completely agree. And just to add to that as well, you know, there's a complete difference in way society looks at us. So if I was walking with my kids to do the drop off with 4 kids, I get completely different looks and completely different comments from when my wife does it alone and takes the 4 kids. So the perception is completely different.
Well, this is the thing, and you know what? People will be like, "Oh, look at him! Well done, him! He's doing a great job. It's fabulous." And you know, women will get the same thing though when you're in business. But the issue that women have is, if then you say, "Oh, I'm a woman in business," or "I'm a woman in construction," or you know, this is an exceptional thing. Oh no, you can't do that. It's all one thing. So you're like, is it all one thing, or is it not? Like, because the dads are getting championed. Let the women be championed for when they're doing something exceptional, something that's out of the ordinary, just as men should do as well, because somebody's got to lead the way. So why not say, that's amazing that you're doing that. It is amazing that you're dropping your kids off and giving your wife the space to enhance her, I'm presuming she's doing that and not laying in bed, but giving her the space to enhance her career as well. That should be championed, it should be celebrated, and you should be looked at like that as well. It's not just, I don't expect to drop my kids off and people like, "Oh, fabulous mum," when my partner does it. I do think, yeah, you know, good, yeah, because he is different to a lot of the people out there. He's giving me the space to go on and do what I want to do. So I'm all for championing the differences until the balance becomes normal.
And then hence why you've got this sort of industry first Women in Construction Awards.
Exactly. And yeah, exactly. And we've had kickback, you know, people are like, "Oh, we should just do the construction awards." I'm like, perfect, yeah, I get it. There's hundreds and thousands of them, and it's great. But if women aren't winning them, then we're never hearing about them. We're not creating role models. How are we then attracting people? How are we talking about these success stories? And let me tell you, Michael, this is not because these are not exceptional women. This is not because they do not deserve to win these awards when it comes to it in the construction industry. A lot of this is the little black book, is connections, and I'm not saying it's all the time, but it happens. And a lot of women are struggling in the industry. They're hitting glass ceilings, so no, they won't get celebrated because they've not had the opportunity to progress. So I want to give them a platform, but more than that, I want to show society that there are women in construction who are doing incredibly well. If you are in tech, if you are in retail, if you are doing whatever you're doing and you have got transferable skills, there is a space for you in construction. And we can't do that if they're never celebrated. So it's just an evening to celebrate. This isn't an evening to say, men, It's an evening to say, these women are exceptional. We have a Male Ally Award. We have an Inclusive Company Award as well. So it's not just solely about women. It's about the championing of women, though, and giving that platform and that space, and then to give back to the industry. This is not a normal award ceremony. I'm not making a single ball bean from this. This is the Royal Charity of Michaela. Honestly, I don't know what I was thinking. It's a lot more hard work than I initially took on. The biggest event I've ever organised, like my son's birthday party, ice skating or something. So this is just very challenging, very time consuming, but I'm not in this to make money. We're giving all of the money back to the industry. We're giving it to a charity and it's going to come back into the industry. People don't do that. And this is why we need more women in construction, because we bring empathy.
Fantastic. And it's amazing what you're doing, really. And what's the vision then? What's the vision for the future? What do you think it's going to be like, and what do you wish it would be like?
Do you know what my own personal vision would be? And this is on a personal level, I don't want to make it about me, but to walk on a construction site and to be spoken to. That is my ultimate dream, Michael, because let me tell you, I'm aging now. I'm not as beautiful as I once was. Nobody is shouting like, oh, get your tits out. I'm not even these comments. That does not happen, despite what people think. But I do get ignored. If I go onto a construction site and I have a male colleague with me who will be employed by me, who might be a quantity surveyor, for instance, all questions will go to him. And unless I introduce myself as, hi, I'm Michaela, the director of the company, which I'm just never going to do, then I'm going to be ignored. I'm there for presumably note taken. So I want it to be normal and accepted that women are on construction sites, women run construction companies, women understand the process of building, women understand whatever it is, whatever you do within construction, for it to become normal. That's the personal dream. I would love that because it's really frustrating. But I'd like to see more women in construction. I'd like to see less suicides in construction. I'd like to see mental health. I know it's being addressed, but just by having women present and men feeling more comfortable to talk about the feelings with a woman rather than somebody who's perceived as a hard nut man, I think will help all of these things. Women bring soft skills that men just by nature don't have in them, just as men naturally are stronger than women. We have different qualities, and at this time we need female qualities.
And I think that's what leadership, my podcast and my mission about leadership in construction is kind of all about. It's equipping people with the knowledge and the understanding and the skills to be great leaders. And so I'm dyslexic, and I think some of the natural skills that I have, which was where the way my brain is wired, plays into those skills nicely. And I think typically women as well have very attuned into those sort of softer skills, as you say. And there is a place that's needed in the construction industry. It's needed for decades. And the construction industry hasn't moved on for decades. And it's about time it did, really. It needs to move with the time. And as you say, we've got a massive skill shortage. And we're gonna find ourselves in an industry where nobody wants to work in it. Productivity is completely crushed if we don't change. And so everything that you're doing is about changing that. And I think it's a fantastic mission that you're on. And I really want to see those changes that you visualize and that you have a vision for. And I find it quite shocking, actually, that your response to that question was just to be talked to, on site, which I think, well, why wouldn't people talk to you? And I think, again, I'm coming from a perspective, like, I don't see why people wouldn't. Do you think that, being ignored plays into women being quieter? So if you're on site and they're just generally getting ignored, if they're not louder and speak up for themselves, that they just get more slowly get reclining and then go into a smaller bubble and go quieter.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, the biggest, there's issues there, actually. I'm going to say the biggest issues are on site, but that's a lie, because there's an issue at board level and middle management and all kinds of levels. But I think what it makes women do is change their personality. So you have to then bring a masculine energy to get involved in the conversation. You have to be like the other people in that conversation, instead of bringing the feminine energy. And that's what's missing in construction. We're not missing more masculine energy. We're missing the feminine energy. So I know, like, I have done this. I have literally introduced myself as the director. I would never go somewhere and say I'm a director of a company. I'm not like that brash and ballsy, for want of a better word. I don't do that, but I have to on a construction site. I can feel myself adapting, laughing to jokes that I think, you absolute pig. But I have to, because whatever, it's my client, and you do find yourself. I don't do that actually anymore, to be fair, but I definitely 100% did when I was starting out. And you do find, until you've established and you've proved yourself and people are accepting you, and you start working on projects with these people time and time again, and they understand, like, oh yeah, she's dead good at her job. You do have to be like them to fit in, and then you can start actually introducing the true self. But some people just don't want to do that, or some people just don't have any part of them that's a masculine energy. And why should people have to change? And this is for men as well. It's easier for men to act that way because they will have been surrounded and understand how to put on that performance. But nobody should have to do that. We shouldn't have to have these ridiculous jokes that are taking place, and just all the stuff that goes on inside. It shouldn't have to happen, and you shouldn't have to be involved in it. And yes, it is an issue, and I'm supporting women, but this is men as well. There are men who are unhappy on construction sites because of the culture of those construction sites. That has to be changed. It has to be changed. If you want skilled people coming working on them, everybody, I know so many female electricians, plumbers, traders, loads of them. They all work domestic. They work domestic because they cannot stand the site culture. There is an absolute untapped market there who will never even contemplate bringing all of those skills to a construction site because of what's going on. It needs to be addressed. The culture's got to be addressed, and the inclusivity has to be addressed by these big employers. And the out of touch reality, Michael, don't even get me started on it. I speak to directors, and I will not call out the companies, but there's over 4 different tier 1 contractors who I work very closely with, or I work with the directors of it. And we was doing a large conference call with the members of staff, and they're saying oh, we're doing, and I won't say what because you'll Google it, the company, but they're saying we're doing XYZ initiative, and this is so great, and everybody loves working for us, and da-da-da. The amount of emails that I got afterwards, and the women were confident enough to speak up, and men as well, where the women are like, no, there are no toilet facilities. I can give you now this many projects where there are no female toilet facilities there. And then saying well, this isn't true because the middle manager, the issue is the director's got a vision that is not being filtered down. It's this middle management tier of it gets said to them, it gets said to them, it gets said to them. It's all diluted and it's not happening. And I believe, and I went back to this company and I've worked with them and said, you need to do reverse mentoring. You need to go onto that construction site. A lot of them haven't been on the site for years, and they never have been on the site. Shocking. You need to go down to the ground level and speak to these people and say, what can we do? How can we actually help you? Instead of saying, this is what we think, this is what this research paper did. Go and do the research yourself. Go and meet the people who you employ and find out what makes them happy. You can do it once a year, do it once a quarter, do it as much as you want. But try and do some kind of reverse mentoring as well so people can actually tell you what they want, and then you can make sure them changes are implemented.
I think that's fantastic, because I think you see that across the board in a lot of topics. When it gets down to middle management, it becomes all about the sort of very finite matrices about how we're going to make profit, and really those things, those great visions sort of start to fall by the wayside and get forgotten. So that's absolutely fantastic, and you started to come onto it there, so I'm going to ask the question really. In this vision, and as I say, we've talked about it's not just about for women in construction, but what sort of role do men play in supporting women? How can men help women in construction?
I think the key things, do you know what? This is the way that I break this down, and I don't have research into it, so this is my own personal experience. You have got 20% of men who are massive advocates for women in construction. They're supporting them, they're turning up to webinars, they're giving them contracts, they're doing everything that they can do. You have 20% of men in construction who are just not. They will never be changed. They're sexist idiots. Hopefully they'll just grow out of construction and that can be done with. There's always going to be a percentage of people because just such is life. And then you have this middle tier who are just nonchalant, oh, well, there is no problem. I'm just going to work, I'm just doing my job. I just, I can't be neither with all this. And it's them people, it's those men who sit there who, they're not doing anything wrong, but they're just not doing anything right. All they have to do is just say hello to a woman. If you see her in the corridors or you see her on a construction site, hello. Avoid things like asking a woman if you want her to carry her tools. We're taught, men are taught to be polite and men are taught to help women and, we're so weak and all this. And that's, perfect. I love it. My boyfriend opens doors for me. I expect him to do so as well. When I'm in a working environment, I don't need somebody to carry my bags for me because that immediately puts me as I'm a weaker person. So just being conscious of it, honestly, just the smallest of things, literally like saying hello. If people turn up to your office, not presuming it's going to be the man who's the person who you need to be selling to, looking at them both as equal and trying to establish who's doing what, not presuming if somebody is called Jamie, that a man's going to turn up to your office, so you're like, oh, Jamie, like not doing that, just try and hold the reaction in and just try and normalise it like it's something you see every day. I appreciate it's not. But if we can try and make those women like, oh, this is something that I see every day, not thinking, oh, they can't do that because they're a woman, and not being asked, not calling out when something's happening. If a woman says there is an issue, then taking that issue seriously. She's not being dramatic. Just listen to what she's saying and try and learn, have conversations with women like, is it actually that bad? Have you ever experienced anything? Just try and learn more. Just sometimes giving the woman the space to go, well, actually, I left my last job because this happened, will then give you a greater understanding. I'm constantly told like, oh, this doesn't happen. This has never happened in my company. I'm like, I guarantee you now, you sit me down with any woman in your business and she will have a story to tell you about the current business that you're in. It happens. They just don't go and tell everybody about it. They just crack on. So just having the conversation, supporting women, obviously calling out any kind of discrimination that you see, whether that's woman or anything, just do something, use your voice, be supportive, let on, and don't presume that, the rubbish. Yeah.
I mean, Michaela, that's absolutely fantastic. And, we could probably talk for hours and hours on this subject. I know you can, about this subject.
That's off in glass isolate. Michael, no problem.
Unfortunately, we don't have hours, but it would be great if we did. So we do have to, unfortunately, bring this podcast to some sort of a close. Before I do, I've got one final question, but before I do ask that, I just want to say a huge thank you for agreeing to be on this podcast. And I'm going to be completely watching this space and everything that you're doing. We'll make sure that we add all the links in for the Women in Construction Awards, so that people know where to go and find it into this episode, so people can go and check it out. And so, again, I just want to say a tremendous thank you for agreeing to be on the podcast. My last question for you, Michaela, is what do you think is the most important aspect of leadership?
Sorry, I missed that last bit, Michael.
Of leadership.
Of leadership?
Yeah.
Open conversation. I think understanding who you have working for you, understanding what their dreams are, and helping them to make their dreams a reality. If you can have somebody there who's good quality working for you, then you should help them to progress their career to wherever it'll go, because a lot of the time you'll find that they then won't leave you, they'll stay with you.
That's brilliant.
I just want to say as well, thank you, Michael, for giving me the space to talk about this, to talk about women in construction in such depth, and obviously to promote the awards that we've got going on. I appreciate it.
No, that's absolutely fantastic. Thank you ever so much, Michaela.
Cheers.